What's up, cool people? Welcome to tonight's live stream. I am feeling much better than last week. So, I also don't have any plans for tomorrow morning going into work or anything. So, I think we'll do a full, regular 3-ish hour stream tonight. But, yeah. I totally forgot to introduce myself, didn't I? Anyway, my name's Matt, aka That Random Christian Gamer, in case I didn't say it already. So, yeah. As per our usual for Thursday evenings, we will be kicking it off with some Bible study. We're making our way through the Bible cover to cover, air quote, because it's digitally, that's why the air quotes, but beginning to end. And we are just currently getting near the end of 2nd Chronicles, but that's where we find ourselves for the Bible study. And then after that, I will be trying out the game Hades. Whether or not Hades is the main character, we will be playing the game, therefore. I also just wanted the alliteration in there. I'm a sucker for rhyming and or alliteration within titles, I guess. But, Seth has requested some randomized exercise, so we must find out what we're doing here. Okay. So, exercise number 1 will be... Bleep. Looks like that's a 3. I forgot to pull up my list. Give me a sec. Right, okay. So, that could definitely use... Alright. So, here's a, I guess, set multiplier, you could say. So, another 3. So, however many I do, it's got to be some multiple of 3, and at least 6 times that, so at least 18. Okay, that is exercise number 1. Number 2, we have exercise number 5, which is what, planking? Yeah. So that just kind of gets a time multiplier, not really a set to do there. 2 is what came up. That would normally mean at least 20 seconds. Yeah, we'll probably end up doing more than 20 seconds on the planking, but we'll see how that goes. Okay. Exercise has been randomized. I think we've taken care of any and all necessary, introductory stuff. So, yeah, Bible study, 2 chapters of 2nd Chronicles, specifically chapters 29 and 30. And then I'll be playing some Hades. Also, real quick thanks for a couple of follows on Twitch. Since the last stream, we got a follow from Amethyst Gaming, probably stemming off of the raid from last time. And then Sunshine Faith 4 days ago. Also, quick thanks to all the people who have been subscribing on YouTube, because, man, that number has really kind of, I'm not going to say exploded, but trended upward lately. But, yeah, Twitch ads are about to roll whether or not I start them. So, yeah. Guess those are coming up, and then we'll get into the Bible study on the other side. Whenever that comes around. But yeah. There was one particular short video that I shared on YouTube that got quite a few views and a lot of engagement. Pretty much because of me being unintentionally, I don't know if dumb is quite the right word, but like not paying attention to something in the game and then asking a question about it, and then a bunch of people chime in like, well, duh, it's this. But apparently that'll get me more views than looking like I know what I'm doing. Alright. Any second now. Twitch ads. Come on. Okay, anyway. So, we shall switch things over to this scene here. And then, once those ads are done, sorry, then we'll hop into our Bible study. But yeah, I was questioning the possibility of hitting 500 YouTube subscribers by the end of the year, like all of a month ago. But then, partially because of that short video, like, I've gained darn near 50 subscribers just within the past, I'm not quite sure how long it's been, but relatively a short time frame for a channel with under 500 total. But yeah, so it looks like those Kingdom Hearts critical runs are coming at this rate. And like, I keep expecting it to stop going up, but no. Like, practically every day, somebody new. If not two or more. But, anywho. Alright. I suppose, now that everything's set, we'll hop into Bible study. Let me turn the background music down a little bit, just to be sure that doesn't become too loud in the midst of Bible study. Okay. Here we go. Alrighty. So, we are at 2 Chronicles chapter 29. And the past few chapters saw a series of kings ruling over Judah that steadily got just a little bit better, and a little better, and a little better, until the last chapter we had Ahaz, who completely rejected God at every turn, no matter the hardship. And yeah, things went notably poorly during his reign. Not a whole lot else to say about that. Sorry. Friendly reminder, of course, 2 Chronicles is sort of a recap of the events of part of 1st and 2nd Kings. Really, 1st and 2nd Chronicles is, I think it was Ezra, kind of recapping the history of God's people for the exiles of Judah who got conquered by Babylon, and he's trying to A, get them back to following God more closely or at all, and B, maybe try to convince them to go rebuild the temple. But, yeah, like I said, past few kings were trending upward, and then very bad king in the last chapter. So let's see what kind of follow-up we get to that here in 2 Chronicles 29. Hezekiah was 25 years old when he became the king of Judah, and he reigned in Jerusalem 29 years. His mother was Abijah or Abijah, I'm not sure of that pronunciation. Anyway, the daughter of Zechariah. He did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, just as his ancestor David had done. See, okay, that is kind of noteworthy because there were multiple kings mentioned that it said they did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, but not like quite to the extent of David. As far as like seeking God, being, quote, a man after God's own heart, and that kind of stuff, like David was the example to follow. And so if it's saying Hezekiah was like David, then you could believe A, he followed God closely, B, he encouraged the people of Judah to follow God, and probably C, a bunch of tearing down of idols and things like that. But maybe we'll get there as we progress through the chapter. But it's looking good so far. Let's move on to verse 3. In the very first month of the first year of his reign, Hezekiah reopened the doors of the temple of the Lord and repaired them. He summoned the priests and Levites to meet him at the courtyard east of the temple. He said to them, "Listen to me, you Levites. Purify yourselves and purify the temple of the Lord, the God of your ancestors. Remove all the defiled things from the sanctuary. Our ancestors were unfaithful and did what was evil in the sight of the Lord our God. They abandoned the Lord and his dwelling place. They turned their backs on him. They also shut the doors to the temple's entry room, and they snuffed out the lamps. They stopped burning incense and presenting burnt offerings at the sanctuary of the God of Israel. That is why the Lord's anger has fallen upon Judah and Jerusalem. He has made them an object of dread, horror, and ridicule, as you could see with your own eyes. Because of this, our fathers have been killed in battle, and our sons and daughters and wives have been captured. But now I will make a covenant with the Lord, the God of Israel, so that his fierce anger will turn away from us. My sons, do not neglect your duties any longer. The Lord has chosen you to stand in his presence, to minister to him, and to lead the people in worship and present offerings to him." Alright, I'm going to pause there for a bit. So, I think it was specifically Ahaz who closed the doors of the temple. So, it wasn't really that long exactly that the temple was closed. I mean, let me back. Yeah, Ahaz closes the temple. Pretty much spells it out there for you. But there were kings before him who didn't worship the God real closely, if at all. And even the ones who were close with God themselves, they didn't necessarily encourage / push the rest of the people toward worshiping God. So, all that culminating with Ahaz closing the temple doors in the last chapter necessitated this. If Hezekiah is going to truly lead the people in, dedicating themselves to God. So, yeah. And of course, he has to talk to the priests and Levites about this, because they're the ones who would be doing the things in the temple all the time. Making or performing even, you might say, the offerings and, doing other Sorry. Doing other kinds of rituals and things like that were written commands of the Lord. So, yeah. And of course, he recognizes, as was probably evident from Ahaz's rule in particular, that, not worshiping God, not dedicating themselves to God, is a big part of the reason things were bad beforehand. So, yeah. Chapter's not exactly short, so I'm not going to dawdle too long coming up with other things to say. Let's move on to verse 12. Then these Levites got right to work. From the clan of Kohath, Mahath son of Amasai, and Joel son of Azariah. From the clan of Merari, Kish son of Abdi, and Azariah son of Jehalalel. From the clan of Gershon, Joah son of Zimmah, and Eden son of Joah. From the family of Elizaphan, Shimri and Jael. From the family of Asaph, Zechariah and Mattaniah. From the family of Heman, Jehiel and Shimei. And from the family of Jeduthun, Shemaiah and Uzziel. These men called together their fellow Levites, and they all purified themselves. They began to cleanse the temple of the Lord, just as the king had commanded. They were careful to follow all the Lord's instructions in their work. The priests went into the sanctuary of the temple of the Lord to cleanse it, and they took out to the temple courtyard all the defiled things they found. From there, the Levites carted it all out to the Kidron Valley. They began the work in early spring, on the first day of the new year. And in 8 days they had reached the entry room of the Lord's temple. Then they purified the temple of the Lord itself, which took another 8 days. So the entire task was completed in 16 days. So, it says they got right to work, which kind of implies that pretty much after Hezekiah was done speaking with them, that at least very shortly thereafter, they started, cleansing the temple, getting all the bad things out, purifying it, doing all the rituals. Well, I mean, after cleansing themselves first, of course. But, yeah. And the clans mentioned here, I assume, are... I mean, the names sound familiar, so I'm pretty sure those were different Levite clans that all would have had particular duties related to the temple. So... yeah. So once they removed everything, or I guess they, took it out to the courtyard first. And then from there, took it way out, totally off the temple grounds, and, nowhere near where it could have any effect on God's view of what they were doing in the temple. Note there, verse 17. Hebrew says on the first day of the first month. Sorry. Hebrew says on the first day of the first month. This day in the ancient Hebrew lunar calendar occurred in March or early April, 715 BC specifically. So we've got like a dedicated year for this as well. And then it took 16 days, so like little over 2 weeks. So it definitely wasn't like a whole nother season or anything like that by the time they were done. But I guess the reason they say early spring here is because the Hebrew says on the first day of the first month, which, given the Hebrew calendar, would have been around that time frame. So, yeah, temple, I guess, is all cleared out. And then we get to verse 18. Then the Levites went to King Hezekiah and gave him this report. We have cleansed the entire temple of the Lord, the altar of burnt offering with all its utensils, and the table of the bread of the presence with all its utensils. We have also recovered all the items discarded by King Ahaz when he was unfaithful and closed the temple. They are now in front of the altar of the Lord, purified and ready for use. Early the next morning, King Hezekiah gathered the city officials and went to the temple of the Lord. They brought 7 bulls, 7 rams, and 7 male lambs as a burnt offering, together with 7 male goats as a sin offering for the kingdom, for the temple, and for Judah. The king commanded the priests, who were descendants of Aaron, to sacrifice the animals on the altar of the Lord. So they killed the bulls, and the priests took the blood and sprinkled it on the altar. Next they killed the rams and sprinkled their blood on the altar. And finally they did the same with the male lambs. The male goats for the sin offering were then brought before the king and the assembly of the people, who laid their hands on them. The priests then killed the goats as a sin offering and sprinkled their blood on the altar to make atonement for the sins of all Israel. The king had specifically commanded that this burnt offering and sin offering should be made for all Israel, not just for Judah. So, like, even the separated kingdom with the other tribes, besides Judah and Benjamin, he was doing his best to make atonement for all of them. Because, I mean, really, they were all, you know, descended from Jacob, aka Israel. And it's like, the temple was supposed to be for all of them, so why shouldn't he do that? Sorry. But, so after Hezekiah heard that, like, basically the temple was all prepped and ready to go, then he is having these sacrifices, bringing them and having the priests make the sacrifices, pretty much to, you know, as it says in the section heading, rededicate the temple. Kind of officially open it back up for business, you might say. Although not really business, but still, same general point. The grand reopening, we'll say. So, yeah. Sick or not, I'm still tired because of early starts to my days. Anyway, so there were a total of 4, I guess, different kinds of animals, you could say, that were offered. And it was specifically 7 of each, which, I mean, the main significance of the number 7, of course, being how many days there are in the week. Also, how many days of creation there were if you count the day of rest. Which, of course, the Israelites found that significant because that was the Sabbath day, was the day of rest. But yeah. Man. Okay. I don't really have more thoughts on that section. On to verse 25. King Hezekiah then stationed the Levites at the temple of the Lord with cymbals, lyres, and harps. He obeyed all the commands that the Lord had given to King David through Gad, the king's seer, and the prophet Nathan. The Levites then took their positions around the temple with the instruments of David, and the priests took their positions with the trumpets. Then Hezekiah ordered that the burnt offering be placed on the altar. As the burnt offering was presented, songs of praise to the Lord were begun, accompanied by the trumpets and other instruments of David, the former king of Israel. The entire assembly worshipped the Lord as the singers sang and the trumpets blew, until all the burnt offerings were finished. Then the king and everyone with him bowed down in worship. King Hezekiah and the officials ordered the Levites to praise the Lord with the psalms written by David and by Asaph the seer. So they offered joyous praise and bowed down in worship. Alright, so not only are we doing the basic ceremonial stuff with the offerings, but there's there's group participation here, getting all the people singing and praising throughout that. And I found it a little interesting that they specifically mention the Psalms written by David and Asaph the seer. I couldn't tell you at what point in its construction, per se, the Psalms were at this point. Like, how many of the Psalms were written. But, I mean, obviously the ones from David would have been, and anybody who had lived before Hezekiah. So, honestly, probably a lot of the Psalms were written at this point. And at least David's had been around long enough to probably start becoming part of the culture for God's people. So, Hezekiah must have found those especially fitting for the rededication of the temple. I mean, the temple was kind of David's idea. As far as the ones from Asaph the seer, I'm not quite sure if there's any specific tie-in there, or if he just also liked those ones. Okay, so singing, praising, psalms, instruments. And then verse 31. Then Hezekiah declared, "Now that you have consecrated yourselves to the Lord, bring your sacrifices and thanksgiving offerings to the temple of the Lord." So the people brought their sacrifices and thanksgiving offerings, and all whose hearts were willing brought burnt offerings too. The people brought to the Lord 70 bulls, 100 rams, and 200 male lambs for burnt offerings. They also brought 600 cattle and 3,000 sheep and goats as sacred offerings. But there were too few priests to prepare all the burnt offerings. So their relatives, the Levites, helped them until the work was finished and more priests had been purified. For the Levites had been more conscientious about purifying themselves than the priests had been. There was an abundance of burnt offerings, along with the usual liquid offerings, and a great deal of fat from the many peace offerings. So the temple of the Lord was restored to service, and Hezekiah and Hezekiah and all the people rejoiced because of what God had done for the people, for everything had been accomplished so quickly. Including all the offerings, I guess? Or, I don't know. That's not a small number of animals involved in these offerings. Couldn't really tell you what the population of Judah would have been like at this point. But I mean, if they're offering animals in the thousands, that's still at least like some kind of percentage, at least, that's not going out to like multiple 0.00 or anything like that. Decimal places. But yeah, so it mentions liquid offerings as well, which I think maybe sometimes were referred to as like drink offerings before. Or maybe that's just in different versions of the Bible and I'm getting that stuff mixed up. But anyway, so the temple of the Lord was restored to service. That's kind of the phrase I was looking for in a way when I said open for business. So it seems like everything's kind of good, or at least off to a real good start, with Hezekiah leading the people towards worshiping God and following his commands and all that kind of stuff. Were there any other notes anywhere in here that I missed? Doesn't seem like it. Okay, well, not too many other thoughts that I think I have there. So yeah, I guess that'll do it for 2 Chronicles 29. Okay, real quick, making sure my Xbox doesn't go to sleep on me. Also getting a quick sip of water. Alrighty. Next chapter. Here we go. Okay, we've made it to 2 Chronicles chapter 30 now. So, last chapter, Hezekiah started his time as king of Judah and seemingly completely undid the efforts of Ahaz before him, maybe even kind of some efforts, intentional or unintentional, of some prior kings before him, as far as, you know, putting the temple to use, or at least opening it up for its intended use, which was, of course, you know, worshiping God, especially by way of offerings and things like that. Priests and Levites all purified themselves, got all the bad stuff out of the temple. The doors got fixed. They purified stuff in the temple then, and made a bunch of offerings, and it was kind of officially rededicated for its primary purpose. Reopened for that. And Hezekiah, perhaps in part because of that, and more things we'll read about, is the first king in a while that it said followed the example of King David, who was like, only the second king God's people ever really had, but arguably the best. Almost definitely the most dedicated to God. So, yeah, that's kind of the situation we got going on here. And we'll hop right on in here in a minute after I take a look at chat stuff. Owl, hello. Hope you're doing well. Been a little bit. At least since I've seen you in the stream chat. So, trying to... Anyway, well, funny or not, you're welcome anytime. Hope you're doing well, Al. Doing ugh. Okay. Well, that I will not pry. I'm doing fairly well myself. I was sick last week, so definitely better than that. And work stuff has been okay lately. We're not like short on practically everything that I need to use, so that's good. Yeah, it's just generally things are going well, I guess, on my end. Alrighty. So, here we go. 2 Chronicles chapter 30. King Hezekiah sent word to all Israel and Judah, and he wrote letters of invitation to the people of Ephraim and Manasseh. He asked everyone to come to the temple of the Lord at Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover of the Lord, the God of Israel. The king, his officials, and all the community of Jerusalem decided to celebrate Passover a month later than usual. They were unable to celebrate it at the prescribed time because not enough priests could be purified by then, and the people had not yet assembled at Jerusalem. Okay, hang on. Let's just say a whole bunch of stuff in a long sequence of events that needs way more than a catch-ups. Fair enough. Sorry things have not been going great for you, Owl. Alright, so note there where it says a month later than usual. Hebrew says in the second month. Passover was normally observed in the first month of the ancient Hebrew lunar calendar. Well, I mean, that was when they were still, like, preparing the temple. So, of course they weren't going to get Passover celebrated in the first month. But better late than never, I guess, is the idea. Maybe we'll read more about that in upcoming verses. So Hezekiah is even inviting other tribes that were in the other separated kingdom to come join them for the Passover. Not much follow-up on that yet, but again, maybe we'll see how that goes as we continue through the chapter. Where are we at in the Bible story? Just a quick catch-up point is Jesus is not born yet. No, this is still very much Old Testament. So we're in 2 Chronicles. This is 2 Chronicles 30. So 1st and 2nd Chronicles are actually kind of a recap of really events in general, but especially what the kings of God's people did that kind of got the people into the situation that they were in at that point, which was that they had been conquered by Babylon, scattered around, and or maybe not that scattered around, but they were not in their homeland because of being conquered by Babylon. And so this guy, Ezra, has written and spoken to these people to try and get them back to worshiping God, and hopefully also back to rebuilding the temple, which has been discussed here. But this temple, as it's being discussed here, is still the first one. Ezra's wanting them to go and rebuild it because it got destroyed in the process of Babylon conquering and all that. Vaguely have memories of Jay telling me about some guy who had a vision about people gambling over his clothes. I was foreseeing. Has that happened yet? That has not happened yet. Yeah, no. I don't recall us getting to that point yet. That's probably going to be in one of the prophets' books. We're not there yet. Still got at least a few books before we get into much of anything like that, honestly. Only going 2 chapters a week. Progress is a bit slow, but I'd rather it be slow and steady than try and do too much at once and then be like, ugh, I can't keep up. Anyway, so King Hezekiah wants to celebrate the Passover, invites some other people from other tribes outside of Judah. They're going to be celebrating a little later than normal, but then we'll see what comes of that in verse 4 here, starting in verse 4 anyway. This plan for keeping the Passover seemed right to the king and all the people. So they sent a proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba in the south to Dan in the north, inviting everyone to come to Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover of the Lord, the God of Israel. The people had not been celebrating it in great numbers as required in the law. At the king's command, runners were sent throughout Israel and Judah. They carried letters that said, O people of Israel, return to the Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, so that he will return to the few of us who have survived the conquest of the Assyrian kings. Do not be like your ancestors and relatives who abandoned the Lord, the God of their ancestors, and became an object of derision, as you yourselves can see. Do not be stubborn as they were, but submit yourselves to the Lord. Come to his temple, which he has set apart as holy forever. Worship the Lord your God, so that his fierce anger will turn away from you. For if you return to the Lord, your relatives and your children will be treated mercifully by their captors, and they will be able to return to this land. For the Lord your God is gracious and merciful. If you return to him, he will not continue to turn his face from you. Okay, looking at chat. Gotcha. Knowledge is definitely all over the place. I have no idea what some of them are in correct sequence. See, that's like, I know it's not generally recommended for someone who's newer to Christianity and to the Bible to read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation or whatever like that. And shoot, even reading it Genesis to Revelation isn't in chronological order. But for someone who has actually, grown up a Christian, read the Bible quite a bit, eventually I think it's a good idea to actually go through the Bible cover to cover, and then you get more of the sequence of things. You get ideas of how Old Testament things hint at Jesus and New Testament stuff, and might actually know some of the references then. Once you return back to the New Testament. But yeah, anyway. That's one of the reasons I personally have actually read through the Bible that way multiple times at this point. And I still end up picking up new details each time. Although that might be in part due to reading different translations each time. Okay. It was because I knew nothing but was open-minded to learning something. People told me it was best to focus more on parts directly relating to what I didn't understand. Yeah, so it was more question, answer, not just go cover to cover. Right, yeah, no, I again, definitely someone who's newer to Christianity and or the Bible, I would not recommend going cover to cover. Like, get the core concepts of the Christian faith first. Then maybe start exploring some more things as questions arise. Or, you know, like, maybe you read a certain thing in the New Testament that has a reference to the Old Testament, and then you go back and read that stuff in the Old Testament, maybe a little bit around that for some context. But, yeah. I still would say there's not really a wrong way to read the Bible. But yeah, most people's knowledge of the Bible is actually kind of scattered, to use your wording there, Owl. And it's generally due to just picking up bits and pieces through sermons or videos or other things that people use to, like, supplement the Bible and or try to understand things about it. But yeah, some Old Testament stuff isn't exactly the best preaching material. Anyway, okay. So they're gonna have the Passover a little bit late, but in order to kind of officially invite people outside of Judah that were still, you know, God's people, descended from Jacob, they literally sent messengers out to tell them and invite them. And it seems at this point, based on what's in here, talking about the conquest of the Assyrian kings, it seems that I'll call it the northern tribe of Israel, the one that was not Judah and Benjamin, had been conquered by Assyria. So Judah's the only remaining kingdom of God's people. Therefore, there's not really any risk of hostility against another king ruling over Israel, because there was no other kingdom. Previous kings of Israel weren't so fond of that idea because it was like, no, if they go down there to the temple and, you know, worship that god, then they might want to stay down there, and we don't want that. So we're going to have our own places of worship up here. Well, those didn't exist as of King Hezekiah. Because, again, conquered by Assyria. Note there where it says Israel, it's referring to Jacob, but, like, the fact that he was named Israel by God. So, basically, Israel, the person, not the, like, kingdom or the ancestral group. And basically the encouragement is, hey, if you all worship God with us, you know, God is merciful. You can still, like, be okay in God's eyes if you turn to him, even after all this stuff that your ancestors have done. Sorry, catching up with chat stuff now. I think the longest one that was a series of studying pieces was, I originally asked about the origin of the sons of Jacob. Then it was about Rachel and Leah, then why the sons were so relevant and stuff around that. Kind of like a snowball effect when I actually asked for more. Still don't fully understand it all, but it was pretty interesting. Yeah, fully understanding the Bible and all of what God has for us in it. That is something I agree. I don't think any human mind will ever fully understand that. But I mean, that's part of what's good about most literature, though. Like, you can keep reading it over and over and gain new things from it. So, as far as specific aspects or stories or whatever, you might be able to understand some of those things pretty well. But, like, okay, Seth, respectfully, you're not really answering Owl very well here. Like, you can understand things within the Bible, but there's because of the timeline and all the history and all the cross references within the Bible. Like, it's difficult to really get a solid understanding of how it all connects in all the different places. And as far as trying to fully understand God in general, that's what I would say is kind of impossible, because by definition, an infinite God cannot be fully understood by a finite mind. But yes, reading the Bible is not a pointless endeavor. You definitely can read it and learn about it and understand things about the Bible and what it says. Just, if anyone assumes that they know everything about the Bible, I would seriously kind of doubt that they actually do. Because there's so much depth to it. But, yeah. Okay. I have quite a bit of chapter still to cover. Feel free to continue discussion. Just know that I will be attempting to make some more progress through the chapter as the discussion continues. All right, so invitations are going out for the Passover celebration feast thing. And we continue in verse 10. The runners went from town to town throughout Ephraim and Manasseh, and as far as the territory of Zebulun. But most of the people just laughed at the runners and made fun of them. However, some people from Asher, Manasseh, and Zebulun humbled themselves and went to Jerusalem. At the same time, God's hand was on the people in the land of Judah, giving them all one heart to obey the orders of the king and his officials, who were following the word of the Lord. So a huge crowd assembled at Jerusalem in mid-spring to celebrate the festival of unleavened bread. They set to work and removed the pagan altars from Jerusalem. They took away all the incense altars and threw them into the Kidron Valley. Okay, gonna pause there for a little bit, I guess. After the chapter readings, do you mind Bible chat for a while before we get to the game? I absolutely do not mind. The game is a secondary thing. Main focus is Bible study and discussion. The game is just something to keep myself occupied when discussion is minimal, and to maybe have other people enjoy viewing, especially who maybe wouldn't be so interested in the Bible discussion stuff. So it seems like, relative to the efforts of the runners, they didn't get a great return. Probably because most of the people from the other tribes had stopped worshiping God so long that it seemed like a ridiculous notion at this point. It was like, shoot, to some of them it might have even been like, who even is this God that you're talking about? We haven't worshipped any God like that in centuries. But some still took the message to heart and went to the Passover. Now it says a huge crowd assembled at Jerusalem in mid-spring. Hebrew says in the second month, which, based on the Hebrew lunar calendar, usually occurs within the months of April and May, which, I mean, makes sense. The thing in the first month said, the mention of the first month was last chapter. But I think it said that was like March or April. So, makes sense. The second month would be April or May. But yeah, I guess in part because of this invitation, there was a large crowd in Jerusalem. Now it says to celebrate the festival of unleavened bread. I guess that was the Passover in a way, because they had to have unleavened bread at the original time of the Passover when they were leaving Egypt, because they had to be ready to go whenever God told them. So, I guess as they're there, this isn't a, prescribed part of the celebration, but, or the festival, but because they were there to worship the Lord their God, I assume that's part of why they took away all these incense altars. Because, yes, there were places for burning incense within the temple, but there wasn't really any other places that it was prescribed to burn incense in God's commands. Definitely not what you would call an incense altar elsewhere, to my memory. To my recollection. I don't know. Wording. So that means it was probably for some other purpose that wasn't worshiping God, and so they got rid of it. Or got rid of them. Okay. Anyway, verse 15. On the 14th day of the second month, 1 month later than usual, the people slaughtered the Passover lamb. This shamed the priests and Levites, so they purified themselves and brought burnt offerings to the temple of the Lord. Then they took their places at the temple as prescribed in the law of Moses, the man of God. The Levites brought the sacrificial blood to the priests, who then sprinkled it on the altar. Since many of the people had not purified themselves, the Levites had to slaughter their Passover lamb for them to set them apart for the Lord. Most of those who came from Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, and Zebulun had not purified themselves. But King Hezekiah prayed for them, and they were allowed to eat the Passover meal anyway, even though this was contrary to the requirements of the law. For Hezekiah said, "May the Lord, who is good, pardon those who decide to follow the Lord, the God of their ancestors, even though they are not properly cleansed for the ceremony. And the Lord listened to Hezekiah's prayer and healed the people. Yeah, I guess it makes sense that the other people would not have... the other people in particular would not have purified themselves. They hadn't been worshiping the Lord in a long time. If ever, for these specific people. And it was like, even if they had been worshiping God, generally speaking, like, what... how likely was it that they would be familiar with the requirements for the offerings? Especially the, like, cleanliness requirements. So... Now, I find it interesting where people slaughtered the Passover lamb, and it says, this shamed the priests and Levites. Now, either they were shamed because they were supposed to do it themselves, or they were shamed because that wasn't how it was supposed to be done, and it was against, you know, what was prescribed in the law. And so their shame was just a general shame for the people as a whole. But despite all of these things not being quite how they were supposed to, Hezekiah prayed to God about it, and it seems like it was all okay, which honestly is a great mindset to have around that on Hezekiah's part. Because it's like, all right, look, God, I know this isn't perfect, but, like, can you forgive us this time? Like, we're just kind of getting back into this. A bunch of these people haven't even worshipped you for... I mean, their ancestors haven't worshipped you for centuries. Like, they're trying, so can we still do this, God, please? Okay, quick note before I move on, where it mentions a month later than usual. Hebrews says on the 14th day of the second month. Passover normally began on the 14th day of the first month, so like exactly 1 month later than usual. It previously kind of said that it was going to be a month later. It just wasn't that to the day specific earlier. Okay. You know what? I'm going to pause progress on the Bible study real quick, because Twitch has ads coming up here soon, and rather than have those interrupt a particular thought of mine or anything like that, we're just gonna run those and then get back to it. Meanwhile, I guess it'll be time for a little exercise. Okay, squats are probably the better exercise to do right now, because then I don't have to get the yoga mat type thing out. Okay. Here we go. Squats. There we go. 2. I'm like, let me get a little bit of a wider stance on that. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, well, there's the minimum. I would definitely like to keep going a little bit longer so I can feel like I'm getting something from this exercise that, might actually have some sort of strength benefits, I guess you'd say. But, yeah. Speaking of strength stuff, I've kind of sort of been considering going to a gym, but, it would sort of mess up, I don't know. I just don't know if I'd be able to make time in my schedule for doing that on a regular basis, the way I'm currently doing things. And right now, I don't think y'all want me to make more room in my schedule, because that would mean getting rid of some stream time, probably. Would be the first thing to go. Okay. So, squats are done. Unpinning that message. So then it's just planking at least 20 seconds is what's left. Okay. Alrighty. I suppose back to the Bible study. Don't know the correct way to word this, so I'll say it. If I get phrases wrong, that's my... Now there is the Old Testament and the New Testament. One portrays a loving God and another portrays a wrathful God. I have found that when I have talked with other Christians, seldom do they worship both. They are either, well, I choose to believe in this loving God who was prepared to have his son die for many sins, or some choose the wrathful God that smites non-believers. What's your take on? The Old Testament definitely could be seen as God being more wrathful. I will not deny that. Okay, so this is not my own original thought. I will preface saying it with that. But I recall somebody comparing it to, raising a child in a way, and how earlier on you kind of have to be just more direct and more strict because their brains might not necessarily be able to understand all the complexities of your reasons for doing things and all that. And giving them too much flexibility would just lead to them doing whatever they want. Kind of as we see with God's people in the Old Testament a lot. It's like whenever they stop following God so directly and following his commands so strictly, they veer off and just start doing their own thing. And that's when God has to theoretically, or not theoretically, but almost he has to step in and give him a bit of a the whatever the equivalent is of a spanking, or some sort of disciplinary measure, some sort of punishment to say, hey, I told you not to do this. And in the broader picture of the Bible, I would say the Old Testament shows a lot more of how difficult it is to truly do everything God wants, to please God, to follow his commands, follow his will completely on our own, in our own flawed human nature. So, with that sort of, I don't know, with that tension there of God's chosen people not really being capable of wholeheartedly following him for long, that's a big reason why God seems so wrathful, comparatively at least, in the Old Testament. Without the sacrifice of Jesus in the mix yet, there wasn't any other sort of thing to take any of that burden of pleasing God off of the people themselves. But because of Jesus, that completely changed things. That's the whole reason there's a New Testament. Because it drastically shifted the dynamic of our relationship with God. It made it so we don't have to bear the full brunt of pleasing God ourselves in our own flawed human nature. And instead, we can just simply put our trust in what Jesus did for us and in the wisdom he shared and the way that he lived, and use that as our guideline to a better relationship with God. With God the Father, to be clear. Jesus is also God, but the Trinity is a very complex concept, and that's one of the things that even the best of theologians have trouble explaining or even maybe fully understanding. So when we talked earlier about not really fully understanding the Bible or God or any of that kind of stuff, that's some of the reason why. But in any case, Old Testament, it's okay, you've got all these laws, you follow them as best as you can, and if you don't, you gotta make these offerings to make up for that. You gotta pay a price for your sin, for your screw ups. God's people, even God's chosen people, were not always great at doing that. So then Jesus comes around, pays the price for all of us, so that kind of step isn't necessary anymore. And so because that step in the process of being right with God has already been fulfilled for everyone, for all time, then, again, completely changes the dynamic. That's why it becomes more of a, yes, we're flawed and that's okay. We don't have to watch our every little step. We, of course, should still try to do our best to, read the Bible, to understand God's will as best we can for us, to follow the example that Jesus laid out for us. But we don't have to keep making all those offerings just to be right with God again. We just have to keep seeking him. But that is my understanding. And as far as which God I would choose to follow, I mean, realistically, if the Bible is any kind of consistent, it is all the same God. It's just we have a very different relationship to God because of Jesus. So, yeah, I would lean towards, emphasizing the love and the mercy of God rather than the righteous, mind you, the righteous wrath and judgment because of Jesus, essentially. I tapped on another thing I was going to ask. In various different types of Christianity, like Mormonism, Catholic, and so on, the text changes on whether Jesus is a man in his own separate to God, where some claim he is God. God and Jesus are one and the same. What do you think? Well, again, the concept of the Trinity is difficult to understand, let alone explain. But so it says that Jesus was born through the Holy Spirit, which is the third part of the Trinity. God, you've got God the Father, the Son, Jesus, who always existed but was only in human form for a short time. That's the part that we read about in the Bible mostly, especially, the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then there's the Holy Spirit, third part of the Trinity. So Jesus is essentially born physically, but is still part of God. It's just that he was human for a time. So, and really what made him human boils down to a couple of things. One, he was capable of dying, as evidenced by, his literal death on the cross. Some people who don't believe in Christianity say that he never actually fully died. He went into a coma or did something death-like, but not quite death, and then, woke up. But, again, from a theological standpoint, understanding the Bible as a Christian, the way to view it is Jesus died on the cross. So, that's one thing that made him human. Aside from also just the obvious being born of a human mother. So there was that. There was the physical form of being a human. I might have said it was only two things, but it's definitely more than that. So, he was born as a human, could die, and as shown in a couple of the Gospels, I think, he was also tempted in ways similar to humans. In fact, maybe even beyond how some humans are, because, Satan himself came up to Jesus and was like, "Hey, you're the Son of God, right? Throw yourself off this high place. No big deal. The angels will catch ya." So, yeah. In any case, he had human struggles as well as being physically a human during his time on Earth. But always existed, just was human for a little while. Heard that theory, found it a pretty interesting theory. Heard one where he was given vinegar instead of water on the cross. Yes, there is an account of that. In one of the Gospels, at least. Passed out due to heat stroke and dehydration. Was presumed he was dead, and when he cooled down in the cave, he reanimated. Okay, so one of the theories of how he didn't actually die, but there was time to take him down off the cross, wrap him up, and put him in a tomb that was carved out of, like, a cave sort of thing. If he had really just passed out from heat stroke, it probably would have felt different than him being dead. And, like, is that something that could have happened? Yeah, maybe, but at the same time, like, I feel like that's more of kind of a theory people come up with to try to explain away the death and resurrection of Jesus. Plus, I mean, like, Jesus still had obvious marks on him after his death. He showed up to a bunch of people after being in the tomb. Also, like, he was in there long enough that people were just about ready to, like, start, I don't know if it was quite embalming him, but something similar to that. And it wouldn't have taken him that long to kind of recover if it was just a heat stroke kind of situation. There were huge flaws in it, but it was definitely an interesting thought. I mean, no one will ever really know what happened. It was like 2,000 years ago and no one alive was there. Well, obviously no one currently alive was there. But again, like, the consistency of the early accounts, while still differing in some details, you know, the accounts that we read in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and there are even some other sort of historical writings about Jesus and who he was and his crucifixion, the brief time between his burial and his ascension back to heaven. Yeah, it's like kind of that. It's kind of that similarity that you get with eyewitnesses, where it's like, okay, the core of what happened is all in agreement, but there's slightly differing details because, you know, different viewpoints and different recollections of things between different people. So that kind of serves as evidence to add to the likelihood of the biblical account being accurate. All right. We have been very much involved in discussion here. I still have not finished up the chapter that I was in the middle of. No problem, mind you. Just noting that at some point I probably should finish that chapter. Okay. So I think I have it right here, ready to pick things up. And again, still feel free to continue conversation in the chat. I just also have this that I want to go through, because A, that's what was planned, and B, you know, I have videos to make. So for now, I'll be continuing on with the chapter. Okay, so, verse 21. So the people of Israel who were present in Jerusalem joyously celebrated the festival of unleavened bread for 7 days. Each day the Levites and priests sang to the Lord, accompanied by loud instruments. Hezekiah encouraged all the Levites regarding the skill they displayed as they served the Lord. The celebration continued for 7 days. Peace offerings were sacrificed, and the people gave thanks to the Lord, the God of their ancestors. The entire assembly then decided to continue the festival another 7 days, so they celebrated joyfully for another week. King Hezekiah gave the people 1,000 bulls and 7,000 sheep and goats for offerings, and the officials donated 1,000 bulls and 10,000 sheep and goats. Meanwhile, many more priests purified themselves. The entire assembly of Judah rejoiced, including the priests, the Levites, all who came from the land of Israel, foreigners who came to the festival, and all those who lived in Judah. There was great joy in the city, for Jerusalem had not seen a celebration like this one since the days of Solomon, King David's son. Then the priests and Levites stood and blessed the people, and God heard their prayer from his holy dwelling in heaven. So, yeah, it says Jerusalem had not seen a celebration like this since the days of Solomon, because after Solomon, the kingdom split. There were not people from this many different tribes of Israel coming together between Solomon and this point here. So, yeah, it was apparently such a joyous occasion that the people kept it going another week after the typical celebration. And in order to help keep it going, Hezekiah himself and his officials pretty much just donate their own animals for more offerings. Now, there were different types of offerings. I assume these wouldn't all be like what you'd call sin offerings, because it's like, all right, by this point, the sins should be accounted for. But there were other burnt offerings. Peace offerings, I think, was a type, a category laid out in the old laws, as well as multiple others. And so, you know, at this point, it's just further showing and emphasizing their dedication to God in amongst this festival. Sorry, note there at loud instruments, just so I don't forget it. Or sang to the Lord with all their strength, rather than being accompanied by loud instruments. Interesting. But still, point is, singing, praising, joyous occasion, happy day, many offerings, many people, all having a good time, and dedicating themselves to worshiping God. And that is how we leave things off in 2 Chronicles chapter 30. Okay. You know, I don't have any stakes in the game because I'm not Christian. I know a lot of people who don't believe, laugh it off and mock it, claim it never happened. That's where I'm at. I think, yes, there probably was a guy named Jesus born in Bethlehem, and he probably did great things in his life. People do. But I don't think it was as divine and magical as the text claims. I don't think he was God or God's son. He's just a good man. Too good for the time he was born. It's happened all through history. Great people are seldom appreciated in their time. Only after the fact, when people realized history is also written by the living, and things tend to get embellished in telling and retelling. Granted, that is a thing that happens a lot throughout history. That's how we have so many religions. I mean, you got Muhammad for Islam, Buddha for Buddhism, obviously. Jesus for Christianity. Like, I will not deny that having this, good person figure to follow is what spawns a lot of religions. Joseph Smith for the Mormons, sure. But I don't know. It's honestly a little bit hard for me to try and come at it from a non-Christian, because I'm a Christian, obviously I have a Christian viewpoint on a lot of these things, which makes it a little difficult for me to think of it as a non-Christian would, and try to, point out the differences and things like that. Yeah, Mormonism is... But still, I will grant the commonality of the central religious figure throughout history. I guess, and you can't even necessarily claim Christianity is entirely unique in the whole idea of, dying for what you believe in, because, Muslims will do that. Not necessarily every religion does, though. The main thing that kind of makes Christianity different, though, is that with, all the other religions, it's pretty much all about, all right, do this, don't do this, pretty much any other religion would have stopped at the Old Testament. That's basically what Judaism is to Christianity. It's Christianity that stopped at the Old Testament. But Christianity, where the commands and things like that, even the Old Testament laws, those are good things. And even in a lot of cases, things we should generally strive to follow. But it's with Christianity and Jesus in particular, it's not that's not the core of it. That's not the core of our relationship with the God of Christianity. And it's not the primary way that we relate to God in Christianity. Whereas I think that is kind of the primary way you relate to other deities from other religions. But with Christianity, the rules aren't the core of it. It's the faith and trust in Jesus. Yeah, talked with people of all different faiths, and so many of them are the most closed-minded people that you will ever meet. Christians I've talked to, and so varied and nuanced. Yeah, that's an interesting thing too, because the core of Christianity isn't the rules. It leaves a lot of possibility and openness for various kinds of people to be at least proclaimed followers. And of course, some of those differences get certain people who believe in Jesus all frazzled, because they're the ones who try to emphasize the rules a little too much are like, no, you can't be like this and believe in Jesus. You and I have been friends how long? Managed to talk like this about it from our perspectives, and no, we're not trying to force our beliefs on. Yeah, like been following for 2 years, 6 months, and specifically 22 hours is an interesting note there. But yeah, to use one of the parables of Jesus, our job, or to paraphrase a parable of Jesus, our job as believers isn't to try to convert people. Our job is to spread the seed, so to speak, to, put the word out there, to talk about it, to be open with people, share our own experiences and thoughts, without trying to force it upon them. We plant the seeds, God does the growing. And, shoot, while it's on my mind, let me see if I can find that parable real quick. Of course, maybe I should try and do a search on here rather than just go chapter by chapter. Parable of the sower. Probably how that would come up. Let's get to that chapter here. Okay. So I'm looking at Matthew 13 here. This seems to be the one that I was thinking of. So, Jesus is telling parables. He says, "Listen, a farmer went out to plant some seeds. As he scattered them across his field, some seeds fell on a footpath, and the birds came and ate them. Other seeds fell on the shallow soil with underlying rock. Seeds sprouted quickly because the soil was shallow." Anyway, so the point is, he talks about a farmer planting seeds, or sowing them per se, spreading them out across various types of terrain. And then he goes on to explain this parable to his disciples. Down here in verse 18, he gets to the explanation. Now listen to the explanation. The seed that fell on the footpath represents those who hear the message about the kingdom and don't understand it. Then the evil one comes and snatches away the seed that was planted in their hearts. Seed on the rocky soil represents those who hear the message and immediately receive it with joy, but since they don't have deep roots, they don't last long. They fall away as soon as they have problems or are persecuted for believing God's word. Seed that fell among the thorns represents those who hear God's word, but all too quickly the message is crowded out by the worries of this life and the lure of wealth, so no fruit is produced. And then talks about the seed that falls on good soil and it produces an abundant harvest and all that. And so he literally lays out an example saying, all right, this is you, my followers, who will be spreading the good news. You will tell people about God, about me, about the good news that they can have a relationship with God that isn't dependent upon their own every action. And some people will be receptive. Some people are gonna embrace it at first, but then drift away whenever trouble comes. And he literally describes the expectations we should have as believers talking to others about Jesus and what we believe in. So anyway, Whole conversation was because I asked. You didn't just go, okay, so I'm going to talk about this, and you listen. Yeah, like, now, there are other kinds of people live streaming who are probably being a bit more direct, talking more directly, regularly about the gospel of Jesus and trying to get people to believe. That's not necessarily a bad thing as a Christian. There is a point where it gets to be really pushy and can actually push some people away. Really wish my multi-chat wouldn't show these things that get detected and deleted by the friggin' bot. The chat bot stuff. Sari bot. Oh well. At least it's just viewer stuff. It's not like anything too racy. But yeah, like, so again, I go back to the point being my job as a Christian, as a believer, is to just talk about Jesus with people. Yeah, if they keep asking more questions, if they, you know, say that they want to start following Jesus, I better be ready in that moment to say, all right, well, here's, you know, what you do. I'm not one to like ascribe a specific prayer or anything like that. But, you know, it's like, all right, well, if you want to start following, you got to confess your sins, say that you believe in Jesus and what he did, and I mean, that's really the core of it. And really that you want to dedicate your life to following him is kind of maybe a third aspect of that. But yeah, different types of Christians exist because there are different types of people out there who can be reached in different ways. And that's the beauty of having a religion that is not, you know, where the rules themselves are not the core of it. All right. I still obviously can go back to Bible stuff at any given point if the discussion continues and I think of anything else that's especially relevant to it. Al, I know you said you wanted to talk before I get into game stuff, so I will await for your word on when maybe you think we've reached a decent spot before I even consider moving on to playing a game here. Like your approach, the pushy people did flat out drive me away from all religion for a long time. It was literally 2 years, 6 months, and 22 hours ago when I started opening my mind. Full disclosure, back then I didn't read usernames. Because of how I was back then, my first thought upon finding out was, oh, a Christian. Ugh. But he seems like a nice guy. I'll stay and watch and talk. And, yeah, that's... I mean, you gotta open the door to let somebody in, right? Oh, yeah, that's right. I did the exercise stuff during the ad break, so I guess you didn't really see much, if any of that. I did the squats. So all that's left really is the planking part. We're probably going to get to another ad break fairly soon. And, Twitch still says 20 minutes, surprisingly enough. I thought I unpinned the thing in the... I guess I didn't have a new one to pin. I didn't make a new one to pin to say, here's what's left for exercise. Anyway. Honestly, we talked through stuff I wanted to talk about. We covered it. Honestly, thought it would take longer. Okay. New pin, unless I get into that right away, which I'm almost wondering if I just want to do that now before I get into a game, because that would just be part of the interruption at that point. So, you know what? Who says we have to stick to a specific structure of doing these exercises around the ad breaks? Planking now. I will go ahead and lay out my little exercise mat here. Not putting my arms on the hardwood. Well, I don't know if it's actually wood or if it's just like a wood look-alike, but it's definitely a hard floor. Okay. Pulling out my timer here. I mean, I guess I could set it for 20 seconds, and then I'll just keep going after that. Definitely live up to the randomness. Life is too short. Alright, Owl, I see that Hydrate Redemption. I will be cashing that in after the planking. Alrighty. I am not very visible if I'm that far up. Shift this back a little bit. Okay, there we go. Alright. And here we go. See, part of the thing with not scheduling, and I guess there's a balance that should be struck between scheduling things and not, because, like, I feel like I so often get asked, hey, you got anything interesting coming up this weekend? And I'm just like, no, not really. Nothing out of the ordinary. So that was 20 seconds already. I'm going to keep going for a bit. So, yeah, I don't know, just occasionally it's nice to plan some things that are out of the ordinary. And shoot, if you got the kind of schedule to do it, just spontaneous things are nice here and there too, that are out of the ordinary. But if you're not spontaneous like that, then plan some stuff that's out of the ordinary, at least. Yeah. Anywho, okay. Ugh. I was starting to feel that a bit. Yeah, my throat's probably sounding a little bit dry because of how much I've been talking. And I have this bad habit where especially when I'm interested in something, I tend to talk a bit louder, which dries out my throat and makes it sore even quicker. So, yeah, thank you for that. Granted, sometimes I'll drink some water if I feel like I need it, whether or not there's a Hydrate Redemption there. Okay. So, We got... Well, shoot. At this point, I might as well run an ad break before getting into the game, too. Might as well reduce the interruptions. So Twitch folks, I guess I'll see y'all in a little bit here. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go ahead and boot up Hades. Just make sure that I'm not, like, getting cords tangled up or anything. Hopefully that didn't mess anything up. Yeah. Okay. Situating myself like this, kind of halfway between TV where game is going to be and computer where stream chat stuff is. Alright. Switch into this scene. Ditching my own background music, finally. Okay. Yeah. So, like, since I immediately did that planking exercise after the comment was mentioned, I never even pinned it in the first place, honestly. Okay, let me see what options are here. Volume settings, okay. Timer display. Stopwatch indicator will gently apply time pressure during escape attempts. Let's maybe not do that. Unpin. I did unpin the old one, did I not? I'm pretty sure I did. I don't even see it pinned anymore. God mode. Instantly makes you tougher, more so whenever you die. Death is not so big a deal in the underworld. Try this if you find you're struggling. I'm not going to enable that right now. That just seems like, you know, the easier mode. No need to mess with controls. I assume it's in English, so... I mean, I'm reading it in English, so... Yeah. Alright. So there are 4 empty save slots. Supposedly, as long as I have one... As long as I keep one empty, I can essentially start everything over. In case I end up wanting to do a actual full recorded playthrough kind of thing of this. Hell mode, yeah. So hell mode, I assume, is like the opposite kind of thing of God mode. For all those unafraid of death and other difficult matters, the pact of punishment will make your life harder right away. Set this if you're a veteran of the cycle of death and rebirth or seeking a purer, more challenging experience. Caution, you cannot change this later. Yeah, I probably don't want to dive into that first. No, progress saves automatically whenever that icon appears. Okay.
Few tales are told of Hades, whose very name inspires fear and penitence, reminding us of the inevitable fate which we all share. I, however, mean to tell you such a tale. Listen carefully.
Alright, how's the sound for y'all?
Goodbye, Father.
Okay, we got ourselves a dash of
What the hell with
swords.
this place?
That's a basic attack.
Go sulk someplace else.
B seems to be some sort of special thing like that. I guess Y might be considered like a heavy attack sort of thing. Right bumper, proceed. Okay. Doesn't seem to be much to do in this room. Yeah, A is dash. That was the first thing I did. Dash. Ah, I can break this. I don't know if that actually does anything.
Try and stop me.
Cool. I defeated a thing. Are these also guys to fight? Sure looks like it. Oh, I actually got hit.
There she is.
Okay. Seems like I cleared the room,
To be
except...
her. Then here goes nothing. In the name of Hades, Olympus, I accept this message.
You know, shockingly enough, I actually did go to a religious school for 1 year as a kid. It's like my last year of primary school. I don't know what the equivalent to that for you would be. It was a kind of Christian school. Technically, it was a Church of England school. Type of Christianity created by Henry VIII. So he could be a good Christian boy and divorce his wives.
Hail, noble cousin. Now, let's get you from that miserable place. I'll see that all of us upon Olympus do our part, beginning here with me.
Yeah, see, I went to a private Christian school for like the first 5 or 6 years of my education. See, when you say primary school, that typically equates with roughly up through like 5th or 6th grade here in the US, I think. In fact, some people here in the US will even call that primary school instead of elementary. Divine Strike. Your attack is stronger and can deflect. Press and hold X. Huh. I think kids are like 11 or 12 when they move up to secondary school. Yeah. 11 or 12 was basically 6th grade for me. And my class. Attack, cast, dash. Whichever is yours. Okay. Press B for a powerful ranged attack. Retrieve that stuff to keep using it. Turn foes' attacks back against them. Deflect. Each have a deflect thing. Press A to rush forward a short distance. Yeah, Oh, the dash does damage, huh? Okay, I'll be real here. I'm more of an attacker. Although spellcasting can also be okay, so this actually gives each one of them the possibility of deflecting things, depending on which you pick. Okay. But yeah, generally speaking, more of an attacker. Depending on the game, I guess I can be a ranged player at times. But I'm gonna go with the attack option here.
I know you can't hear me all the way where you are, Goddess, but thank you.
Okay. Next room.
Let's see how quickly I can slay you all. Gone. Short work.
I have a key.
Where I can use this.
So, like, realistically, if my main attack can deflect things, I should just probably be attacking a lot. It wasn't my family's first choice. Went initially to a non-religious school, but I had to leave it. Only other school in the area was a Catholic school, and it wouldn't allow us to go unless we did a whole lot of church attendance. For some reason, they were weird about me being christened, but no other blessings. See if E was the only one had no issues. Whoa, hello. That's a trap. I should probably avoid that.
Louts. Good.
Okay, well that wasn't too bad. Max life plus 25. Is there just a general life recovery option? Maybe? I don't know. Either way. Okay. So when do I get to use the key thing that I got in the last room? You recover 5 HP every room and a bunch between acts. Okay. Fair enough, I suppose. Proceed.
They're armored.
Ow.
The underworld's power.
Okay, so yeah, just spamming attack doesn't mean I'm immune to everything, clearly. I didn't think it would mean that. I was just kind of not sure how I would even get hit, generally speaking. Whoa, okay, hang on. Chat's moving a little fast here. Keys are used between acts for meta progression. Okay. Note that your coins go away between runs. All gold goes back to Charon. Roguelike joke of saying you lose all stuff between... purple gems, there are also meta progress between runs. Okay. Okay, so yellow health bar is like armor type stuff. Ow. Okay, I'm getting hit a bit more. I should probably try a little harder to actually be careful about stuff.
A palm of power.
Power up. Hey, Divine Strike, level 2. Extra 16% damage.
I'm hurt. Can't heal myself.
This game's poorly
but I can
researched. The
fight.
notion that anything...
Wretches.
Ow. Ow. Totally thought I should have been hit by a different attack there.
Something for the mirror. Each exit has its own reward.
Oh, hold up. There's two things here. Why are there two things? Elite or shop. I mean, okay, that's kind of what I would have figured. This, or that makes sense, I guess I should say. This looks like it would be the shop. So let's see what's
I
here.
hear the river. Charon's shop.
Okay, so if I buy that, I guess I recover 30 health. Either that or add 30 max health. And I can't even buy anything else, so...
Why, good to see you, Charon, mate. Just minding my own business, taking in the sights, and hey, what's that you got? Some sort of wares for sale? And I'll just have a look around.
By the way, this game being a roguelike has no... It doesn't really have anything to do with how closely it follows the mythology or anything. Roguelike games are just the kind where it's like... Part of the process of the game is that you're meant to die and then gain certain materials that you can use to like upgrade things to potentially go further the next time you attempt a run through the main game. Another thing Greek, if this game has, which is apparent here, idea of how many god rewards. There will never be two god rewards in the same room unless it is a god feud. I've studied Greek mythology extensively. Athena is one of her symbols is literally an owl in that. Yeah. Okay. What do we got here in this room? Hello.
Back. Coin from the dead.
Maybe I should have asked this earlier. Is there any sort of, like, lock-on type feature in this game? Okay, I think I only see the one way to go. No lock on. At least for Hades 1. Oh yeah, more enemies. Literally, if I get hit with one more thing, I'm gone. Oh, come on. The movement of my attack there caused me to move into the enemy attack.
Home.
The House of Hades.
Yes, carry on, everyone. Don't mind me.
Another thing that you will get soon. Testifies for the first time, even maybe the second. Die will not be the last. Instead. Okay.
Hello?
Hello?
Welcome to the House of Hades, where...
Hypnos.
Wait, I know you. Guess that means you died out there, huh? Well, don't be sad, though. Pretty much everybody dies sometime.
Some of us more than others.
Back already.
There's a good boy.
Hey.
Do not let him
I can pet the doggy.
Infernal watchdog Cerberus regards the underworld prince with mixed emotions, from purest joy to deepest melancholy.
You watch over things for me, won't you, boy? You know I'd take you if I could.
See, I suppose the way that I think of, like, Greek mythology and stuff is probably closer to how a lot of atheists think of, you know, the Bible and Christian beliefs and stuff. It's like, it's just a story kind of thing.
Stupid boy. I told you nobody gets out of here, whether alive or dead. So how was your wanton ransacking of my domain?
Greetings, Father. My ransacking was a delight, thank you for asking. So I'll just be on my way again.
Be on your way indeed. What do I care? You shall never reach the surface. Go, see for yourself.
Okay, before I go, though...
You have come home.
Hello?
Do not despair, child. Such
Nix.
setbacks are inevitable and may be overcome with effort and with time. You made contact with the goddess Athena. She shall be true to her word.
I believe it, Nix. I'm grateful that you put us into contact. I know you took a considerable risk in reaching out.
The risk is not to me. I expected the Olympians would involve themselves in this eventually. Reveal to them no more than they already know. Are we understood?
Yes, we are.
Then go.
Okay, wait. Is there somebody I talk with about, using some of these things that I've acquired?
Good to see you, lad. Despite the circumstances. Remember your training out there. The pain of death is but another obstacle.
I know I've claimed numerous personal facts. Here's one about me. I have a statuette of Cerberus near my front door with a pouch of coins under it, guarding our house and protecting it from bad energy and bad fortune. Cerberus always was a guardian and a protector, making sure... Yeah.
And fear is for the weak. Take care, Achilles.
The House of Hades. That dark and lavishly appointed lair of the underworld's king is home not just to him, but to his willful progeny.
You know I can hear you, old man.
Relax, question mark?
If I sit down, I won't want to get back up.
Too true. Alright, we'll pet Cerberus one more
Knows
time.
exactly how to give you pets and live to tell of it, right, boy?
Okay, I assume I have to go this way now. It's kind of the only
Hey, room.
way left to go. Use the mirror to grow stronger. Okay. Examine
The
that.
chambers of Prince Zagreus lie in a perpetual state of utter disarray, despite his lord and master of the house repeatedly insisting that he pick everything up.
Oh, come on. It's not that bad, is it?
Rest? Question mark.
Sleep.
Can't sleep. Yeah, the whole thing with people thinking Hades is evil probably just boils down to, his role and, like, thinking it means that he kills people and or that he wants people dead. And even if he does want people dead, it, like, assumes that he wants bad things for them in the afterlife. Shadow presence. Deal bonus attack and special damage when striking foes from behind. Chthonic vitality. Store a small amount of your health, I assume that is, when you exit a chamber, +1 per rank. Cool. Yeah. And I guess I'll do a rank of that, and that's all the more I can do. Reveal 2 new talents hidden inside the Mirror of Night. Or hidden inside you, question mark? Okay, so I need a total of 5 keys to unlock more of those. Which means I have to keep going through this more.
Okay.
Or... Oh, hello. Inspect.
I'll have to come back later.
Oh, just kind of a display case sort of thing. I cannot unlock any of these weapons, except maybe this one. Oh, so either I unlock a weapon, or I save up keys for other
I
things.
can do this. I can escape from the courtyard back there.
But right now, okay. Sorry, keeping up with chat here. Movies like Disney animated movie making him Hades. Villain doesn't help. He doesn't actually want souls dead. He's basically just a guy doing his job, overseeing the underworld. I assume I already spent those gems. Sorry, I have to just...
There we go.
The amount of back and forth.
Seeker. Let's deal some death. Psst, over here.
Hold X to fire, press Y to volley fire. Release X while flashing to power shot. Press X while dashing to dash strike. So, regular shot.
That's the stuff.
Okay. There's the volley fire. Wait. I guess I have to just release it at the right time, like that, to do the power shot. Okay. Press X while dashing to dash strike.
Didn't hurt. Whoops.
Okay.
Bet I got you pretty good.
And... Oh. I can talk to him? It doesn't seem to want to let me talk to him. Oh, that's where the sword... Okay. Honestly, I'm not sure...
Felt nothing there, sorry.
I mean, I guess I'll give the bow a try, but I might not necessarily make that my weapon of choice.
Darkness, give me strength. Thunder. Is that... Is this really him? Okay. In the name of Hades, Olympus, I accept this message.
Get one for run will change in Hades too.
Greetings there, young man. Look, your father's always been rather difficult, and he's not so much as called in quite some time. You'll have a better home where you belong, here on Olympus. And to help you on your journey, have my blessing.
Okay, right off the bat. Lightning strike. Your attack emits chain lightning when you damage a foe. Electric shot. Your cast is a burst of chain lightning that bounces between foes. Your dash causes a lightning bolt to strike nearby foes. Okay, hang on. This room does have enemies that will spawn in. You know what? Let me try doing the dash thing.
Lord Uncle Zeus lending his support. Never thought I'd see the day. Or night. Whenever.
Well, okay, if we've got piercing shots, then maybe I could get used to this.
A chthonic key. This can unlock something back home.
Okay, so we've got
Where now?
that, which I think was a room that raised my max HP before. Or we've got this, which I'm not quite sure what this does. Maybe I should find out what this room does. Left is a new boon type. Okay. So yeah, I could just dash around really close to the enemies and deal damage to them that way.
There must be a mess. Let's see here. Hi there. In the name of Hades, Olympus, I accept this message.
Clearly he must say that thing about accepting the message each time.
Why, hello there, little godling. I have to say, you're quite the specimen, and so I've decided I shall aid you for the moment. You interested?
Hello. Heartbreak Strike. Your attack deals more damage and inflicts weak. Crush Shot. Casts a wide short-range blast that inflicts weak. Okay. When foes are slain, they damage nearby foes and inflict weak. Huh. I think it might actually be the most helpful on... Well, okay, the cast is a wide, short-range blast. Yeah. At least it gave me the option on that one previous comment of yours there, Owl. Which I was like, yeah, she doesn't mean anything bad by it. feel like inflicting weak would probably be more helpful in like a range. Although, you know, I don't know. I'm just gonna go with my gut and put it on the crush shot.
To break hearts? Sure, I don't.
Oh, hello. I could get another key that way. Or get some of this stuff over here. Decisions. Key. Ow. Didn't like that.
That's for last time. I can use this to unlock a weapon.
Yeah, I took a little more damage than I would have liked there.
Patch up. Got to keep going.
Okay, I see a lightning bolt there. Would probably indicate more lightning powers. This... Not quite sure what that does. Pomegranate of power. Twitch is going to be nitpicky. I'll unflag myself so you... Let's go with this room. Yeah. Also, I heal 1 health per room.
They absorbed my blow.
I will say the fact that the arrows pierce through is very handy. Al, I'm a little surprised that I haven't already given you mod access. Well, after this stream, maybe I will.
The power of the gods.
Okay, so... Cross shot level 2, so it deals more damage and still inflicts weak. Or the Thunder Dash can deal more damage. I don't know if I'm actually getting damage in with either a whole lot, but the Thunder Dash, I mean, dashing is something that I will definitely do either way. I seem more inclined to just forget that I have a cast attack thing.
They must have lots of these upon Olympus.
Oh, so that's an elite. I don't know if I want to do that yet. I think you did offer me once at some time. Wasn't something I was... Okay. Make sure to follow the tutorial thing too. What? Tutorial. What? Oh. Yeah, press that for boon information, yeah. Huh. Plus 20%.
Worthless.
Ow. Fortunately, that didn't seem to do much damage to me. Hooray!
Duck first.
Gained some of that from this run, finally. And looks like I don't really have a choice for rooms this time. There are elites in each of the 3 acts. Sometimes you may be forced into an elite. Yeah, well. Maybe for right now, I'll wait until it forces me to fight an elite before I,
Witches.
you know, choose to do so. Are they just gonna keep endlessly spawning here? Sure seems like it. Well, of course, the second I say that. Another one did spawn, but elsewhere. Okay.
Tower of Olympus.
Okay, crush. I can continue increasing either one. You know what? I think I'll keep it sort of balanced. Although I've definitely been using the dash a lot more than the crush shot.
Palm down.
Ooh, okay. An elite. Oof. Or a shop. At some point I should see what elites are like. Oh, jeez. That's a lot. Oh, okay, that actually wasn't too bad, although maybe it's because I was taking on those enemies, and it's really just, okay, stay away and shoot from a distance. Oh, they're explosive. Okay, so that would be a bunch of gold or whatever. This is more Zeus stuff. Yeah. I would go for Zeus stuff. Okay, so that does have a very short range. Okay, there is still another summoning thing. Hey, alright. Another room cleared.
Olympus, I accept this message.
Ooh, lightning strike, rare. Your attack emits chain lightning when you damage a foe. I guess... What makes it rare, though? Just, like, the amount that it does? After you dash just before getting hit, a bolt strikes a nearby foe. The lightning effects also make foes jolted. Victim's next attack self-inflicts lightning damage that harms nearby foes. Yeah, I still don't really know what makes that one rare. Sometimes rare is not always the definition of best. Well, I've been doing a lot with the dash stuff, so... Well, I guess this would also have to do with dashing stuff. Sometimes as a warning, boons may replace boons. Oh. I wonder, would that have to do with the symbols on the left? Tells you most of the time. Okay.
Thunder and lightning.
I seem to only have one option. Where to go? And it's an elite. Yippee. Whoa. Alright.
Anyone else?
That actually wasn't terrible either. I'll definitely be able to tell the boss room symbol apart.
This one was bound to show up, I guess. In the name of Hades, Olympus, I accept this message.
Elite with Ares boon. Okay.
You've got quite the fighting spirit in you there, I have to say. Most intriguing, and yet no surprise for someone born in hell itself. You come on out of there and tell me all about it. I'm a fellow student of death, you see.
Okay, let's see here. Curse of Agony. Your attack inflicts doom. After a brief moment, victim takes a burst of damage. Okay. Curse of Pain. Your special inflicts doom. Or urge to kill. Your attack, special, and cast deal more damage. Yeah, The Curse of Agony sounds like a good one. I'm gonna go with that, I guess. Okay, only one room option. Whoa.
Death is inescapable.
Survive for 45 seconds. Oh, jeez. Really? Oh, come on. I dodged.
So much for that attempt.
You cold, Father?
Anything new to say?
Looks like one of those little numbskulls took a big old bite right out of you back there. I guess they got you, huh? Maybe if you weren't quite so tasty, they'd leave you alone. And so would I.
Okay. Someone's at the desk next to the throne.
Oh. Renovate.
Some sort of special offer for me, my good shade.
Added chamber restores some health. Okay. Oh, okay. Whole bunch of other stuff that actually costs things. This one, however, does not.
Work authorized. A fountain chamber in the depths of Tartarus sounds like an excellent idea.
Okay. First work order. Yeah.
Who's that sniveling shade to your immediate left there, Father? Already found someone new to do the busy work, and here I thought I was utterly indispensable.
That shade boy is my newly designated contractor, one whose responsibility is to work on this house. Though who shall pay for everything my subjects here demand, I do not know.
You're trying to guilt me into funding the exorbitant furnishings you desire.
Perhaps once we are finished with repairs for all the carnage you have sown throughout my realm, then we might finally have time for all the needed renovations that have piled up.
Nice. How you holding up, boy? Eating well lately? All three mouths full and happy?
Each terrifying maw of the infernal watchdog Cerberus responds affirmatively, one after the next. as if to reassure the ever-doubting prince.
If I don't pet your other heads, don't bite my arm off. Deal?
So, like, I don't know, Cerberus doesn't seem quite as menacing as some depictions.
Happen to know whom I should thank for the weapons just outside my chambers, Achilles?
I'm sure I wouldn't, lad. Though if I happen to run into them, I'll let them know.
Oh. Didn't even realize there was something to examine there.
Within the House of Hades now is sealed off, in utter shambles, since the multi-headed Cerberus tore the space apart, warning the missing prince.
Cerberus destroyed the lounge again.
Darkness guide you, child. You have outgrown this house. Of that I am now certain. Should you return again here, I shall keep you safe.
I won't forget you, Nyx, I swear it.
Okay. What do we have from the mirror now? Death Defiance. Restore 50% health instead of dying when your life total is depleted 1 time per rank. Oh, geez, yeah, that second rank is very expensive. Goes from 30 to 500.
The power of night.
So yeah, at least for quite a while, you're only getting one. Oh hey, now maybe I can talk.
Nice place you got
Skelly.
there, boyo. Name's Skelly, how's it going? But enough with the small talk already. I'm here to do a job. So let me have it. Give me everything you got.
I don't remember having you on payroll, mate. Who's your supervisor?
Oh, I'm not about to wrap my sources, pal. Just try and beat it out of me.
If you insist.
Good one.
I cannot purchase anything new. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of the whole, like, having to charge the attack, though.
Yeah, boyo.
I'm gonna try switching back.
Styx, Blade of the Underworld. I need your strength.
This ought to be good.
Walk out across the way. Like,
Find day or whenever to get me out of here.
why this chamber reached 12.
That'll do it.
No keepsakes yet.
What'd I miss?
Yeah. It is getting to be about that time. It is past 9 o'clock in my area. Progress saved 2 minutes ago. I gather that was either when I entered the room or when I switched weapons. Okay. Well, one thing about the Bible that I would... whole Adam and Eve situation. Some glaring issues with that, which honestly makes no sense. So I'm not entirely sure what in particular about the whole Adam and Eve situation that you don't necessarily understand. So I'm not quite sure where to start with that. I mean, one fairly common question, I guess, that comes up regarding Adam and Eve that confuses some people is like, well, why did God even make the bad tree in the first place? He could have just had everything be good, and then there wouldn't have been any punishments or any, anything bad to enter the world. And really about the only response that I could come up with that would remotely refute that line of thinking is just that, without some sort of choice, then it wouldn't really be... Well, the short version is, without some sort of choice, there would be no free will. And if there were no free will, then, anything that we would do for God, or that would, then actually be within God's will / what he tells us, is just that, it wouldn't really mean anything if that was the only option. The slightly more extended version of that is the Bible says God is love, and in order to be love, God must present the loving situation, which is, I give you a choice in this. I am not going to force you into doing what I want, or even loving me. Garden of Eden situation. Okay, sure. What I really can't get around is they're supposed to be the ancestors of all mankind going by Christian teachings. Didn't they have sons? Then who did the sons have children with? It's just not possible for one man and one woman to be the ancestors of all mankind without a whole lot of stuff. That would get you a ticket to hell if you follow the teachings. Yeah, and I mean, if you really follow the Bible in a strict literal point of view, you don't even have to go all the way back to Adam and Eve for that kind of thing. Well, I guess that's debatable. But essentially, everybody on Earth would actually be even a descendant of Noah. Not even going all the way back to Adam and Eve, Noah. Because he and his family were the only ones to survive the flood, according to the Bible. Even if God created wives for them like he created Eve, then why did they even need to reproduce when God can just poof people into existence from... Yeah, and so... But to wrap up the whole Noah thing, it's like, well, some of his sons might have already been married at that point. So, that answers it from the... as far as Adam and Eve and their sons, it's like, yeah, to follow the logical options, it's like, well, either God just made wives for the sons... Which brings up your point of like, okay, why would there even need to be, why would there need to be procreation, we'll say, between humans. Why would humans need to reproduce if God could just make more people like that? And I'm not sure if it's so much a need as a, like, well, it's a more preferable thing to have for the sake of humans than being more intimate. Like, the physical intimacy adds to the overall relational intimacy. So yeah, God just making wives for Adam and Eve's sons is logical option number one. Logical option number two, there were actually other people that existed elsewhere in the world. And it's just that Adam and Eve are referred to as, or Eve in particular is referred to as the mother of all, because it's actually just, the Bible is skewed toward God's people, and so she is really just the mother of all of God's people. But there were actually other people that existed elsewhere, and that's how the sons could have other wives, and that's why Cain would have had any concern about anybody hunting him down after killing Abel. Aside from, maybe there was concern about others in, Adam and Eve's family or whatever. Like, there's actually potentially a lot of years in there that aren't even really talked about, how much time happens between some things. But, like, according to the Bible, Adam and a bunch of, the early generations lived hundreds of years, many hundreds of years. So, potentially a lot of time in there. But, the other logical possibility is that, okay, yeah, their incest was a thing, and some Christians try to excuse this by saying, oh, well, it was different back then. The genetics of people were different from how they are now, because now we've had all these millennia of reproducing and the genes getting closer and closer to each other. There's less variety, and so it causes more problems to reproduce with, people whose genes are that similar to each other. But yeah, even if it was 100% true, you would have to birth her own grandchildren, or a daughter of theirs that just isn't mentioned. Yeah, so my inclination about the whole Adam and Eve situation, and this is just my thoughts, I can't claim this is the answer, but I tend more towards the second reason or explanation that I gave, where there were actually other humans created by God living in other places. It's just that the Bible focuses on Adam and Eve and calls Eve the mother of all because of its continual focus on God's people. I just realized I never changed the stream topic over to Hades when I started playing. Yeah, the emphasis is more on conversation anyway. That's the real draw of the stream, right? But yeah, and like, the Bible even occasionally acknowledges God working in and through, or even just doing other things to other people groups. Not especially often, but, like, it does tend to massively focus on God's people. So, with how much that's the case, yeah, anyway. So if the Bible didn't acknowledge people who weren't God's people, evolution could happen. Then Adam and Eve's children just bred with the... Yeah, as far as I can tell, ads are rolling on Twitch. And I never addressed what was asked earlier about Noah, I don't think. What was that? So I could see with Noah being mankind's origin. Because how did they know that some people didn't climb up to the mountain peaks and build boats in time? Yeah, again, especially if you consider the whole focus on God's people of the Bible. It's like, yeah, maybe the whole thing with the flood, it's not that like nobody else on the entire earth survived. It's just that nobody anywhere near the area of Noah survived. But, raise up another question. God created the earth in 7 days, so he would only place Adam and Eve there. How did humans that weren't his people get there? Why would he build a planet and just put random humans that are not his people? Yeah, I mean, shoot, why would God have even made the earth to begin with? Like, there's a real head scratcher of a question. I mean, what? Again, I'm not going to claim to have the best answers necessarily, but, as to the book about God's people, I mean, there are other ancient writings that are about other people, I guess. But, yeah, none of those are really viewed in the same way by Christians or even Jews. If things did only start with Adam and Eve, it does make you wonder how people became not believers in God. But actually, I think the potential biblical explanation for that is that when Cain flees after killing Abel, then any people descended from him would have, had a different upbringing, potentially had less communion per se, or communication at least with God. So I guess there's that possibility. But then the flood. So yeah, it's like, okay, well, going back to the focus of the Bible being on God's people, is it like, I think I said this while the ads were rolling, is it actually that Noah and his family were the only ones who survived in the entire world? Or is it just that they were the only ones in that area that survived, and maybe some others in like Far East Asia survived? Or maybe not that far east, maybe more like the Himalayas, or I don't know. Like, I'm not a real stickler for like, yes, every single little thing must line up and make sense. But yeah, so like in any case, whether from Adam and Eve or from Noah or whatever, assuming you do take the Bible completely literally, that like those are the only people then. As far as people not being God's people, it's like, so first off, there wasn't really even like a covenant. And in that way, there wasn't even really a chosen people of God until Abraham, who came after Noah. Generations after Noah, even. Not a ton of generations, but at least a couple. So, like, God's people wasn't even really a thing. I mean, yeah, Adam and Eve in a sense were God's, like, God was there with Adam and Eve in the garden, and so, like, they were his people in that way. But, like, I don't know, there's different ways of potentially looking at the wording and what it could mean to be like, well, okay, maybe this isn't as limiting as I thought. Because, yeah, like, God didn't really have a specific covenant, aka like agreement, I guess you could say, after the garden, or between the Garden of Eden and that whole thing and Abraham. There wasn't really a specific long-term promise of like, hey, if you do this, I will be with you. With, I guess, an occasional, like, I guess the whole thing with Noah was kind of like that. That was more of a, hey, just trust me kind of thing. Not necessarily, it was like, just trust me and your family survives. Whereas Abraham, it was more of like a, okay, go where I'm telling you, believe me, and you will get this stuff at the end of it, more than just getting to stay alive. Also, it's further questions of how there are all different religions all throughout time that weren't even God. Some religions and cultures actually worship the sun. How could that happen if God made the earth and all mankind? There's, well, yeah, free will is the short answer. But I can't say where off the top of my head, but if there are at least some references within the Bible that talk about people worshiping the things that were created instead of their creator. Because, like, okay, you have people worshiping the sun because it provides light, and that's a good thing, and they like the good thing that it provides, so let's worship the thing that provides the good stuff. Like, if there's a removal from God, especially before all that, then yeah, again, I'm not going to claim to have all the answers. Ultimately, the short answer is, yeah, free will. And, you know, sometimes it might be people taking something too far, whether it be, you know, enjoying the light that the sun gives, and they started enjoying it to an extent that it became worship. And then that, after some generations, became its own religion. And, like, especially when we don't have specific time frames for when certain things might have happened. It's like the Bible doesn't even describe how long Adam and Eve were in the garden before they ate the bad fruit. Also doesn't say how old they were made to be, roughly, or like the equivalent thereof. Like, there's a whole lot of little details that aren't there, that it's like, yes, it leaves a lot of questions, but it also leaves a lot of potential room for some things to actually not just be wrong. Within the Bible, specifically, I mean. But, anyway. I suppose we could be here for days on end with all the potential questions. And if these questions had obvious answers that everybody could agree on, we wouldn't keep asking these questions. Or so you'd think, anyway. Then again, there are other things in life that seem like they should be obvious, but not everybody agrees on them. Notice that time is definitely very poorly represented in the events in the stories. Honestly, seems like a whole lot of things that happen in such a short time. Yeah, and like, did time even work the same way way back early on? Because, you know, time doesn't exist without space or matter, and we only measure time based on the movement of celestial objects. Or at least that's how it was for the longest time. So it's like, it says God did such and such things in a day. What even was a day then? How long was a day? Was it 24 hours like we think of? Depends. Did the Earth rotate at the same speed back then? How do we know? We don't. So, yeah. There are a lot of questions, and some of the questions can even make the other questions seem less like biblical deal breakers. And by that I mean things that, like, refute/disprove the Bible. Like, some people will ask particular questions to be like, oh, the Bible can't be real because how do you answer blah, 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 blah. Well, what about this question? This other question calls your question, like, it makes your question completely unnecessary, or like completely reframes it in such a way that it's like, there's all sorts of other possibilities here. There are some things we may never really get answers to. At least, in this life. And part of believing is the faith to say, you know what, I might not have all the answers, but I'm gonna trust that the core of what I believe isn't shaken by these questions. But yeah, it's... See, there's so many things to learn, even just from and about the Bible, that it's like, if anyone seems to stop asking questions, then how much are they really interested in learning about it? And if they're not interested in learning, how much are they really invested in, continuing to learn more about God? Man, okay. I appreciate the discussion. I will admit I am getting tired, though. Actually, I've been kind of tired, but now starting to feel really tired. I think that is one of the big no's for me in being a Christian. Is that sometimes you need blind faith. Don't want to commit my whole life for something that I'd have to hand wave away all the doubts and just believe I don't need to know. It's not necessarily a dismissiveness. Like, I am still very much curious to learn more things, even if, it's not directly from the Bible, getting other people's insights on certain things about the Bible, like something related to the writing style and, things like that. It's not necessarily a blind faith that never questions. It's just a faith that is willing to accept not knowing everything. So I guess it's at worst a blurry faith, you could say. But shoot, part of the faith aspect of that is saying, okay, well, whatever I need to know, I will know when I need to know it. All right, well, yeah. Again, a good discussion. Appreciate it. But yeah, I'm tired. Before I completely wrap things up, heads up on upcoming streams. Tomorrow will be Kingdom Hearts stuff. And specifically kind of kicking off I'm going to call it the climax / not really endgame. Climax is a better way to put it. Of Kingdom Hearts 3. So yeah, that's the focus of tomorrow. Maybe after Kingdom Hearts 3, I'm realizing I have completely, like, not done any game reviews for a long time, so maybe I should go back and start making some reviews of other Kingdom Hearts games that I played. So that might be something I do after the Kingdom Hearts 3 scheduled stuff tomorrow. Try the new demo. What? New demo. Oh, well. Anyway, there are possibilities, but in any case, possibly wanting to review stuff after Kingdom Hearts gameplay. Next week, Thursday, of course, will be more Bible study, and not quite sure what's going to come after. Probably going to be one of either more Hades, some Power Wash Simulator, or Slay the Spire. But yeah, that's something for me to figure out between now and Thursday. The main thing, of course, will be the typical Bible study where we will continue going through 2nd Chronicles. Yeah. So, that's all I got. At least for the next week or so. And don't really have anything else to say about tonight's stream either. Hang on. I was just about to raid somebody, but now they've got a screen up that leaves me unsure of what they're doing next. Yoshi OST. I did follow them, right? I thought for sure I followed them. Why are they not showing up on my followed channels list? Probably not going to follow the raid. A friend of mine is live. I'm going to go watch them. Okay. I mean, shoot, we could raid your friend if you'd like, unless you know they're going to be extremely not family/Christian friendly. But I do mean extremely when I say it. Alright, so I do see a Yoshi OST live. Can't quite tell what game they're playing. Not extremely family friendly. He's like 60% more, like 50. I mean, shoot. Last Friday, I was playing Borderlands 4. I can't claim I'm the most family-friendly streamer either. Yeah. That kind of... okay. I can... Yeah, true. It's more the content sometimes of the games that I play that aren't so family-friendly. I myself try to be. Anyway. So, Owl, I respect your desire to keep, you know, I guess keep things clean on the cleaner side from here. One grumpy boy. And I realized I so should get my multi-chat window somewhere in this scene. Otherwise, all you see is me. And that makes it a little awkward. Somebody remind me to do that. So I guess... Alright, well... Don't get any instant note. Okay, you know what? I'm not wanting to sit here contemplating raid targets any longer. So, you know what? Owl, we're going to raid your friend there. Alright, so, yeah. That's going to do it for me. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Make sure to follow / subscribe if you're on YouTube. Anyway, and check out edited videos and stuff in between live streams. Hopefully I will see you soon, but whatever the case is, until next time, stay cool, everybody.